Welcome everyone to this episode of Notes with Jack. My name is Alan Fox, and I'm here with Saginaw, Michigan's favorite son, Jack O'Brien.
I don't know that I am.
Who? Who from Saginaw? I meant to look it up.
Brian Darcy James was born there.
I don't know who that is.
You don't? Okay. Stevie Wonder.
Well,
what is it? Wait a minute. What does that look?
No,
Stevie Wonder's a genius.
No. That's what that look was. Maybe you're their second favorite son.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
No.
I'm teasing.
I'm not in the running. But anyways,
okay. You're my favorite son from Saginaw,
Thank you.
Michigan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you. Thank you.
So where are we at, man? We're almost a month into Ghost. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm exhausted, and I'm about to start moving back. It's an interesting time for me because what I do for the first period of rehearsals is I zone in on every single character.
Yeah.
I sit there and I listen to them, and I'm looking for a mistake. I'm looking for an untruth. I'm looking for them trying or acting. I'm looking for something that I said that wasn't helpful, that should be fixed. And I'm actually doing sort of tuning in per person in a play like this. This is this is where I'm every man. I'm like, I've had tons of experience. I have no idea where we are. I have tons of belief in myself. Fucking terrified.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, of course.
I look at them and they so love me and believe in me, and I think, you fools, I'm leading you up a primrose path. And what happened with this piece, which is so interesting to me, is that I chose it as a financially responsible, great play with great parts for American actors, so that would be entertaining. And I had done the play before at the Globe in San Diego in the 90s when I was still running the place out there.
Yeah.
And I thought, a very good job. And I thought I was sort of proud of myself, and I thought, oh, this will be good. And then in conversations with this new translator, Irish guy, Mark O'Rowe, who I was terrified of at first, because he was so, no li mi tangere, don't touch me.
Yeah.
And then we've become so close. It's just wonderful. To all the companies, he's like a member of the company.
Yeah.
I said, I think I should do it without intermission. He said, you got to. That's the way to do it. Well, I have never done it without intermission. I didn't the last time. So please understand, there's a fire in the middle of the play. There are three acts. The first act happens. Second act happens. The orphanage burns off stage.
Yeah.
And then in the third act, it's the consequences of the fact that hell is burned down. Los Angeles, is burned down. And they're trying to decide what's left, nothing.
Yeah.
And her son, suddenly has this syphilitic sort of bust up and goes nuts.
Yeah.
Not a comedy, not a happy show here.
Right.
But in every show I've ever seen, ever done, or watched, the curtain ends in the end of the second act. Everybody we go out and we have a pee, we have to get a drink, we talk to each other, we come back, we sit down.
Yeah.
It's after the fire, and they're now sitting there dealing with the world. And then you go on. But when we decided to do it without intermission, I, as the director, have to say they all rush down the hill to the fire. Everybody leaves the stage.
Yeah.
And then what?
Right.
So I then have to write a story here that brings the characters back up after the fire to whatever. So I got very excited about this because I thought, usually they're sitting around in a lot of Victoriana, talking, talk.
Yeah.
In this case, I
Yeah.
realized that they're on an island. There's no fire department. The
Yeah.
fire, it burns to the ground, so they don't save it.
Yeah.
So for, let's say, 3 hours, these 7 people, the 5 people on the stage, and the hangers-on that you don't see who work there, were trying to put a fire out, which they failed.
Yeah.
They're exhausted. They're drained. They're parched.
Yeah.
And the syphilitic kid, who was supposed to be resting and recuperating, and that has now been a hero for 3 hours, and it's precipitated his final breakdown.
Right. And that feels, I just want to jump in because you said at the beginning, you said you've been really tuned in, right? You've been tuned into each character as they moved. And I know you've told me you've had some stomach issues. It's like you've been feeling what every character is going through. Now you said you're about to take sort of a step back.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels like sort of a step back. Like what does that look, what does the rest of the step back look like?
Well, I have a lot of other people I haven't talked to. I have a
Right.
set designer. I have a lighting designer. I have a sound designer. I have a musician. I have a composer. I have people, dresses are going to come on the stage.
Yeah.
Things we've talked about, things that we've sketched, things that the company, in a sense, costumes, they've had fittings. I haven't seen the fittings.
Yeah.
And we're now moving from this small, contained, claustrophobic space into this cone of people almost in the round, this wonderful, intimate theater at Lincoln Center called the Mitzi Newhouse.
Yeah.
Where I did my first show there, which was a Tom Stoppard play called Hapgood with Stockard Channing.
Yeah.
150 years ago.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful because it's not a proscenium. You're right with the actors. They cannot hide. So it's like pushing the camera in.
Yeah.
And now that's a whole new resonating space. I now have to watch the tempo of a lighting cue, how long the sound will sustain. I have to bring a lot of other people now into the arena and get them at their best.
Yeah.
Let them do what they do. Let them contribute. Let them surprise me.
How do you negotiate that because you've been working just with the actors and actresses. Suddenly you're bringing all these other people in. How do you because the image that came to my mind as I was thinking about, when you're the eldest child, you get all the attention and then one day you don't get as much attention and you can get resentful of the youngest child or you can get jealous. Is there some sort of negotiation with the actors and actresses and all these other people? Like, I know you don't just forget about them, but is there any kind of hand holding or protection that goes into your thought process for this now that more people are involved?
Well, here is where experience comes in.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've realized that I start with those people who are not in the room. I start talking to them about the parameters or what kind of an evening we're doing or how my creative thoughts I share with them so they can think and start dreaming how that would fit in. And then I encourage them to drop in. And so this whole last week, Mark Bennett, the composer's been in the corner with these machines and doing his little deals,
Right.
And John Lee Beatty, the brilliant set designer, whose world is so unbelievably researched and familiar. He has the best taste, and he knows how you would be signing a document in 1882 as opposed to now.
Yeah.
He knows all of that. He's there all the time, floating around, watching, listening, making, not contributing, but tasting. So you fold them in like egg whites. You treat them like egg whites. They can't be slammed out. You can't shout about it. You can't call attention to it. You've got to make it comfortable and kind and familiar for everybody so that they all are listened to and they all can contribute. And if they see, I've said, because I'm taking some real risks with this show. Yeah. And I've said to the designers right away, if you see something that looks like it's too much, talk to me. Yeah. I'm not selling anything here.
That was the most interesting part of me during the highest to lowest process, the film I have coming out this summer, was seeing how big of an operation goes on that I wasn't aware of at all. And by that I mean it's almost like what you're saying, where I mean I'll never forget one of the producers FaceTiming me when they were first sort of putting the sets together. And apparently they'd spent more money than I should probably say on here for a piano as part of the set. And as the writer, I never put a piano in any of the script. And he was calling me about how excited he was that this piano was going to be in the apartment of the protagonist. And it was just so funny because I realized, and obviously it added so much to the set decoration and to the feeling of the film. But for me, I was looking at it and I was like, I didn't say anything about that, but you realize like, oh, there's so many talented people working on this thing with you.
And from their point of view.
Right, exactly, exactly. And that's really interesting to
see. What is power? What is wealth? How do you exhibit it? How do you silently exhibit it? How do you contribute to the right atmosphere so that the sound of the language resonates as reality, not as a decoration?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
This next week, these next 10 days, don't call me. Don't call me. Don't.
Right.
It's the happiest time in my life. I'm in a room with, in this case, 5 actors and let's say 6 designers and their assistants and what have you. And it's just us. And they're showing me and I'm showing them and I'm trying to make it work together. And this little tiny universe that is redolent of creativity and people who are way down the line with their acumen and their skill. And they're all, in a sense, not only contributing, they're competing. You know, they want to be as good as the actors are. And in this case, as good as the play is, which is monumental. The play has survived for 200 years because on some level, the things that I'm scared about now and excited about were sleeping in there to be taken, to be opened. And, you know, you don't have to do them. You can just show up and do the play and it's okay. It'll take care of itself. But if you ask it questions, I've got a year of this now. I mean, we're doing this one. And then in the fall, I get to look at deep within the heart of a musical everybody thinks they know, The Sound of Music, and they don't know it at all.
Right.
They only know what they think it is, which is the movie, which is not the show. And the men who did the creative work, Rogers and Hammerstein and the playwrights who did the book, hated the movie because they took these kinds of liberties and were not inclusive.
How do you ask the piece questions? Because that's always how I think about writing something as well. Is I feel like I know when it feels uncomfortable in my body when I'm working on it, and I start trying to ask it, what is it actually trying to tell me? How do you do that from a directing standpoint? I mean, you've talked about you like to really zone in and listen, but is there enough, like when you ask it questions, what are we doing in that process?
This gets really personal, okay?
It's just me and you.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Right.
I have realized at this stage in my life, I mean, when I was young and I was closeted and I was gay in the 50s and 60s, 40s as a big child. And believe me, you know, I mean, you can say all you want, but anybody who is a homosexually oriented person will tell you they knew it before they knew it. And if nobody trains you or makes you do this, nobody influences you. You know, as a matter of fact, in my case, and people of my generation, we prayed to be lifted out of this. We knew it was a disaster. We were not allowed to think it was normal. And so all I wanted was to be accepted. All I wanted was to pass so that people wouldn't beat up on me, insult me, exclude me. I became professionally charming because I wanted to be good company, contribute, entertain. I had chosen inadvertently a career in which the only way I could be successful was if I told the truth.
Hmm.
And I couldn't tell the truth to myself.
Hmm.
So the fact that it's been a long arc has allowed me to work through a lot of shit and get rid of a lot of stuff and re-examine and reevaluate and learn how to lovingly tell the truth, not only to the actors in front of me, but to me too.
Yeah.
To myself.
You think you have to, because it's really funny. It's always like this though, right? I feel like every time we talk, you're always sort of sniffing around something that I'm also trying to wrestle with. And something I've really been wrestling with is, what do you know? How do you know what the truth is? And I don't mean what color's your shirt. I mean, when you go through your life and you experience certain things and you're a human. So you have different points of view on different things. I think, and what I always go by is feeling. What is my stomach telling me the truth is? And that's really all. If you could strip everything away, because I had a lot of vices that used to keep me from knowing what that truth was. And I think I spent up until a couple years ago having a bunch of layers on top of whatever my truth sensor was. But I'm curious, like, if you feel like, and even getting back to the idea of the play, it's like, how do we know what the truth is? I mean, that's such a profound thing to say, that you put yourself in a profession where the only way to be successful was to figure out how to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I think I probably did because there have been a lot of things that I would be as good as I am at this and I would run away because I think probably I was getting away with not telling the truth. You know what I mean? So how do you find what that truth is? Like, what's that? What does that feel like? What does that look like?
You see, you know it when you see it.
Right.
I mean, you know it when you see it. That's why some movies are better than others. Some plays are better than others. Some songs are better than others. Some operas are better than others. Some relationships are better than others because I'm doing a play about people who lie. This is the first play he had written, The Doll's House, in which Nora slams the door and leaves the lies behind. And then he himself, Ibsen, said, the reason I had to write what happened to Nora when she left home. And could she tell the truth? And we're having problems right now as people in 2025.
Yeah.
Because her truth is not our truth now.
Yeah.
We've had 200, 150 years or whatever this has been to sort of to get closer to it. I mean, I could not have survived the way I was as a human being if the art had not freed me. And you just know the truth when you see it, when you hear it, and and we like to say, a lot of us, that we know a phony when we see one. Well, there are awfully good phonies out there right now.
I like how you worked that in there. Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think but what I loved about what you said was, like, it's hard to tell the truth to yourself. That's what's hard. You know what I mean? It's really hard to tell the truth to yourself.
I think that's success. I don't think it's money. I don't think it's opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a position. I don't think it's fame. I think success is figuring out for yourself what truly is you are doing, and celebrating, loving as best you can to enjoy every bit of it. But if you're spending energy faking it, it's an insult against life.
Yeah. And
I think it is.
Oh, I think you're 100% right. And I'll tell you, I mean, again, I wanted to talk to you about, you said something to me, and I'll tie it all together, but you said something to me the other day. You said two things on the same phone conversation. You said, the key is to never stop. right? And you were talking about, because that question of like, how are you still going? The key is never stop.
That's right.
And in the same sentence or same conversation, you told me, but I'm having to pace myself. And so what I wanted to, and there's this interesting, one of my favorite quotes is from Carl Jung, who says, growth occurs at the tension of the opposites. It's like these two poles force us to grow. It's like the third rail is where we
Carl.
have to find. Yeah.
Carl. Good Carl.
Oh man, Carl had a lot of stuff, man.
I know.
Carl had a lot of stuff.
I know.
But no, but I'm curious how that has looked, which is I know you have this engine to keep going. And I know you've also had to learn to pace yourself as of late. How does that look? Like how do you keep the ups and downs?
Well, I guess that's an interesting question. I mean, no one's ever asked that of me, but I guess what happened is in 2015, I had open heart surgery. I had a triple bypass, and I was totally fine. I was asymptomatic. I had nothing. There was nothing wrong. I went and had, as I did today, I had a physical, and it came out, and they said, "Get in here tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, I can't." Oh no, I did. I did come in, and they were going to put a stent in, and they prepped me for it, and it was too complicated. And then they said, "We got to operate," and we're in a hurry. I said, "I've got a couple of gigs I got to do. I got
tickets to Phantom tonight.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can't make it."
Sort of.
Right.
Nathan Lane was interviewing me at the Y, the in 96th Street Y on my first book.
Yeah.
I got to make some shekels to pay for this operation. So anyway, I went in and out.
Yeah.
And then you have to understand, I thought, oh, okay, without modern science, I died. That's it. That was it. That was my closure. Except that they fixed it. And heart, these now, there's like, you're having a lube job. They're just going, and you're out,
Right.
No, but they're not the same rules now. I had to suddenly realize that this part of my life was uncharted water.
Yeah.
Because I had been given a reprieve. And I had to then think seriously about life and non-life and what I was doing with the time that I had and what I wanted to do, how I felt about that. And it really sobered me up. It really I did my best work, as I'm fond of saying, in my 70s is when I got all my awards. In my 70s.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. I love how you say every day you're making a conscious choice to do it, because at your age it becomes a conscious choice.
Believe me.
Because there's those. You've told me about that dream you had before, where your father was in it, and he was in a truck, and he was like telling you can come on, and you told him no, I want to stay here. And I think about that dream all the time, because what a conscious choice to keep going. And that's one of the reasons I'm so inspired by you, is you make that conscious choice over and over and over. Was that part of your life before 2015? Or are you saying like that was sort of the switch? That was the pivot where suddenly you became aware of that?
I don't remember the dream.
That dream? Oh, well, you told me. It was one of my favorite things anyone's ever told me.
Alan, this happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
People are constantly telling me things I've told them,
yeah,
things I've shared with them, and I think, I never said that. And people have based their children on it.
Sure. I was actually going to name my firstborn Jack's Dream, so I'll have to actually do that differently now.
I think that's a racehorse.
Yeah, no. I lost a lot of money on that racehorse.
But no. I don't know where it's sort of. I think that dream, if that was the case, is a consequence of the choice.
Yeah.
I value time now. When I was younger, I was late all the time, very late, famous for it. And people always thought it was rude. And I thought, no, it isn't. I have a lot on my mind. And now I'm on time. I'm early. If anything, I'm early.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm ready for it, baby. It's wonderful. This is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful thing. And when you figure it out, excuse me, when you figure out how remarkable living is, the things that you just don't even think about, you just take for granted. Color, music, a language everybody speaks, and none of us know how to do it.
Yeah.
But we share it. I was watching the Grammys last night. You know, they're tearing the place up. I've never seen the fastest, the loudest, the highest, the sexiest, the boobs, the whole deal. You know, you're thinking to yourself, holy man, nobody did that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody did. I don't know half these people, but I know talent when I see it.
Yeah.
And you think, man, this is really happening. This is exciting.
Has talent changed?
Yeah.
Do you think, because I grew up playing basketball at a high level, right? And what's been amazing, and I don't like basketball anymore, really. I have sort of a tough relationship with it. But sometimes when I'm in the bathroom, I'll look at Instagram and it will show highlights of young basketball players. And they're so much better than we were athletically, just the skill wise, like they're way better.
I was watching the skaters last week, God rest some of their souls.
Right.
And there's this groovy kid they call the Quad God. That's his nickname because he can do quads.
Right.
Now, you know, that just happened.
Yeah.
Like years ago with Bannister, the 4-minute mile happened.
Yeah.
And suddenly now even your grandmother can do the 4-minute mile now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. What do you think that is? Because I always think we don't know. I think humans are capable of so much more than we actually think all the time. And I'm not just saying about, oh, you can achieve your dreams. I'm saying like our limitations are usually self-imposed. And so when someone does something like that, breaks the 4-minute mile, it gives the rest of us permission to run a mile under 4 minutes, if that's what we choose to put our energy into.
Is it Alvin Toffler that wrote that book? Now I can't remember the title of the book. It was Alvin Toffler. It's about modernity. It's about how the life progresses. My point being, we never think about this. We play Mozart faster than he did.
Right.
And now, if you look at Glenn Gould playing the piano, you know, you think, how can anybody do that?
Right.
Because I don't think the composers did that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was possible because it exists. There is the opportunity to interpret in a different way, but we get better. The more you get better at living, the more living you do.
Yeah. So then let's talk about the entertainment. I mean, let's talk about theater, right? With that in mind.
Yeah.
Which is because, you know, as I've told you about wanting to do this podcast with you, I'm obsessed with the idea of what is the value of the past in a world where we are getting better. What are those things from the past that are so important for us to hold on to? Because I think about the present moment as the past and the future coming together in marriage. And so I'm curious, like, what do you feel like is, okay, this is what we need to hold on to?
I have a little bit of a problem here because in my generation, when we grew up, we looked behind and the people we admired and we patterned ourselves after them and we brought their legacies forward.
Right.
Then when celebrity became TikTok, where you could become a star overnight or an influencer, something we didn't even have. We didn't know that had no value in the 60s, being an influencer. Maybe somebody could figure it out, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But now it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a valid thing.
Would you have been an influencer with the opportunity?
I don't think so. No, because I'm all about the journey. I'm all about what you did that I learned that I push on. You know, that's what I love about this.
Yeah.
Is for whatever reason you find this interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. And you know, I'm stunned because, as I think I mentioned to you not too long ago, you don't have a reference to a lot of the people that are important to me. You don't even know who they are. And my generation, everybody knew everybody. We knew all that. Steve Sondheim was married to a guy, Jeff Romley, who was so young next to Steve that we were all nervous about it. Turned out to be great. They had a
Right.
wonderful relationship. And when Steve died, he's died a happy man because he'd always wanted to have that. And he had it. And that was great.
Yeah.
But Jeff didn't know any of those things. So a lot of their relationship, I'm told, I never sat with them in the privacy of their home, but he would explain the world that he'd inherited to Jeff, who those people were, why they were important, why they were funny, why they succeeded. Jeff got that education at Steve's knee.
Yeah. Well, I think
but a lot of people don't give a shit about that.
No, but this is what I mean, though. There's a marriage of it, right? It's like I think that you can become trapped in the past because patterns are easy to get caught up in and try to continue playing out. We see that in our lives, right? When someone has a habit or someone has something, it's like if you've been looking to the past and you've idolized someone, sometimes it can be very difficult to break out of that if you pattern your career or pattern your craft after them, right? But at the same time, I was someone, because I didn't have these references, I was kind of just freewheeling it, and I wasted a lot of time. I won't say wasted a lot of time. I had to learn on my feet a lot, right? And so what I'm obsessed with is what is the marriage of the past and innovation? Because that's what the future really is, and why I think is it's exciting about when you don't have those patterns, you have to innovate. You have to figure out your own ways.
Well, here's the kicker.
Right.
I'm at this point in my life, occasionally I reach back and look at some great, phenomenal film or something that I loved, idolized, or a performance that I thought was great. And I think, uh-oh, I can't buy that anymore. Because that role is being played by a fake white English actor, and that's not who that character is. Or I look at a movie in which I don't see a black or a brown face anywhere along in the society. And now that I'm further down in the line and have been educated by my society how bad that was, I don't look with such affection back on some of those things anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't think that would happen.
Yeah, but that's tricky too, because, or I see that as tricky because I think there's tremendous wisdom, not to give anyone an excuse in the past, right? But it's like there's tremendous wisdom hidden in some of those pieces that when because that's what I think sometimes I worry about is like when we discount craft, right? If we were to try to watch something and do the best we could to be colorblind, to get the craft of it, versus when we discount things that may not check certain boxes that we now say is the correct way to be, which I agree with as well. But it's like, it's interesting how we negotiate the past with the future. And I think that negotiate, again, getting back to Carl Jung, it's the negotiation of opposites that leads to growth. That's the third rail.
And going back to our previous conversations, our carton of curiosity, if you may call it that, in which we're looking at structure.
Yeah.
And you and I believe strongly that structure, we hold on to that as something sacred. A lot of people don't care about it. Yeah. They don't think they need it. And do they? I don't know.
Well, what will happen, I think, right, is because I love the idea that nature always sort of heals itself. So not having structure or not being obsessed with structure for long enough will lead to innovation. And then one day someone will come along basically redoing. I think a guy like David Mamet or Aaron Sorkin are these like structure gripping onto structure, right? In a way that like when I've tried to teach myself and I see how they write, I say, oh, that's part of Sorkin's genius to me, is the way he can play with structure and still do what needs to be done, right? And one day, someone like me may do something with structure that feels revolutionary, but in reality, he's just on the shoulders of a guy like Aaron Sorkin or David Mamet, and will rediscover structure, because that's how the pendulum swings back and forth, right? But I think it's like that understanding and almost just making peace with that is so important as you try to push forward.
Help me here. What's the white hot writer and on television now who did Yellowstone and Landman?
Taylor Sheridan. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Taylor Sheridan is the god of structure.
He's made hundreds of millions of dollars with cowboy hats and structure. That's it.
That's it. Brilliant. brilliant.
Yeah.
He understands how to move the story. He knows, I got to appeal to you. Now I can't forget about you. I'm coming over to you. It's unbelievable. It's all structure.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And
I
it's,
mean,
and
he has other talents, but that's
of course,
like,
he's an incredible. I mean, you know, he might be the best writer alive right now, right? He does incredible television work. Have you ever seen Hell or High Water? That movie?
Oh my God! Everything he does.
Yeah, he was cooking with gas on that one. All right, so as we start to wrap it up,
hey,
let's
lighten up.
Yeah, I know. Let's get back to you. We're bringing everyone into the cone, right?
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about. You told me not to call you for the next 10 days.
Well, you can call me. I don't know if I'm going to answer the phone.
Sure. Okay, what's the one thing with the piece, because I want to revisit it on a future podcast episode. What's the one thing you're the most on shaky ground about how it's going to land?
I don't want to tell you.
You don't want to tell me?
No, here's why. I'm imposing on top of this entire experience a kind of gesture toward Lincoln Center Theater, which has been an enormous part of my creative growth.
Yeah.
And from which I benefited inordinately. I'm making a move toward what I call the mysteries. And the mysteries are what separates theater people from regular people. Because there's another language, there's another music that we hear that binds us together. I mean, when I got my award, my Tony Award, Lifetime Achievement, I knew this was a good line. I didn't realize how good a line it was. It was something that happens, you know. When I said to the audience, I don't want to disillusion you, nobody asked us to do this.
Yeah.
And the house went up in a sheet of flame. They were screaming with laughter. But I guess it is funny that we do these award things because nobody asks us, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
So we award things to ourselves and people watch us,
Right.
But it is something about this other world that we live in, this matrix that we swim in, that we can't deny ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a gesture, a statement with this production. And so I don't want to talk about it because if I do, I'll fuck it up.
All right, man, I wouldn't want you to do that. So on that note, one thing I'll add, I think the thing about the theater and theater people is they give access to that music to people that want to sit in the audience. Because I think we all have access to it. Sometimes we just need a little helping hand to get there.
We try.
Right.
And we think it's important.
Yeah. Or the people that come that do too. I think everyone knows it's important. It's just finding that gateway.
You don't always get it. And there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
But when you get it, man, is it good.
Well, you're going to get it with this one. All right, Jack, this might have been my favorite one we've done so far. I can't say thank you enough.
Was it longer than usual?
It was a little longer, but that's because we had some sound issues at the beginning. So, we'll sign on with that. Anyways, notes with Jack. Jack, thank you so much.
Sweet dreams,
we'll talk to you next week. All right, talk to you then. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.